Hello, everybody. It's your host, Mr. Talk, and we're here for a review of Chapter 159 of Undead Unluck. I think I've broken my record here. An upload within a year of the last video I made. Pretty good, pretty good. I want to try and be more consistent with the video outputs, but you don't know how life can go sometimes, so I'm not making any promises. Okay, so we start the chapter off where we left off, with Fuko and Phil leading the alien creatures away, the alien bug creatures away from the rest of the team. At this point, we see Phil's mother. Phil's mother mentions about the queen, and she is super worried about this queen. She says that it's nothing like the others, and they'll be completely finished if it finds them. They do mention that the queen should display the same habits as the children, obviously. So that does mean the queen would be after Phil and Fuko. Fuko then goes on to explain to Phil about his. You know what I've just realized? Phil and unfeel. Okay, yeah, it took me a little bit long, but whatever. So Fuko goes on to explain to Phil about the previous loop and his negation ability that will eventually manifest, and she also talks about how a negation ability does dwell within the soul. So that means Phil currently, although that he is a robot. He does have a soul in their universe, I guess. She also mentions that Phil has so much emotion, like his powerful emotions. Basically, is probably a reason why the god of this world decided to give him the negation ability Unfeel. And I find it so interesting. That's another interesting thing with this power system, that it's actually a lot of the times the powers are meant to hinder a certain person, like because the implication here is kind of this god being decides has the who gains the negation abilities. I kind of thought it was just picked out at random, since like when someone dies it just gets passed on, but it kind of seems to imply that the god does choose who gets the negation ability. And I guess that makes sense because it's basically just a game for him, between him and Luna, to so he would play it the best way he could, give someone who he thinks would be terrible with the negation ability, it would like be a detriment to them, and usually it is, because these negation abilities are met with tragedy. So I guess it all does make sense, that they're all just playing into this god's game, bro. But yeah, they're fighting back in this final loop. And speaking of fighting, they are going to need to fight for their life, because the queen shows up in the next panel, and this is just a behemoth kaiju looking monster. It's similar looking to all the other kids, but it's just a fuck ton bigger with sharp fucking teeth. Yeah, so once the queen shows up, Phil starts speaking, but then kind of cuts off, and Fuko looks kind of worried. And it's actually his ability starting to manifest, as Fuko said before. If his ability did manifest, he wouldn't be able to speak anymore. So I believe that is what's trying to be implied here. His ability starting to manifest. Phil says that his feelings are getting quieter, and then we see the panel in the big bold unfeel. And I do like that little added flair that the mangaka adds whenever an ability is being used or first introduced, and it's like the bold feel. I also like beforehand when we didn't know about the abilities and it'd be like redacted or something. I like that kind of small little style. We then go into a small little flashback with Phil and his mother, and we see that Phil, when he was first roboticized, I guess, yeah, he started out with just, I guess, a bit of a head, some wires coming out of his torso. I'm really curious as to why she had to do this to Phil. Was it truly needed, or was it a part of the whole experiment with a child in space? Did they actually intend for this to happen, or did he get into an accident? Or because he's a child in space, his body just couldn't acclimate to being in space, so she had to put him into a fake body or something to keep him alive. It's probably something like that, because Phil's mother does seem to care a lot about her. She doesn't seem to be a just cold, callous scientist type. She seems to be a genuinely caring mother. After the flashback, we cut back to Phil inside the stomach of the Queen. Inside the stomach, there's a just bunch of their crew members who was previously eaten, I guess. On one of the crew members, it says something about take the doll, and we see in the next panel there is a doll. It's right above him, right above Phil. Phil mentions that this doll is actually what his mother and the other crew members collected and were researching about. It also seems like the Queen and the other bugs, alien things, were absorbing the power from this doll. So the obvious thing to do is go ahead and touch it. And it turns out this doll is an artifact. And it's kind of used as a yada yada device, as I like to call it, just like a quick little device to give a character exposition on shit that we already know, based all the stuff with the loop. To be honest, I quite like this, and it was already set up in the past. Like some artifacts can let you see from the previous loops. So yeah, I do like this because if we're gonna go through a loop, we're gonna meet all these characters again, and we don't want Fuko. We don't want to have a panel where Fugo goes and explains all the other shit that they need to know. It's cool, yeah. Just create a new artifact, get someone to touch it. Boom, they already know what happened in the previous loop. I like that little aspect with the artifacts. So we find out what this artifact is, and it's called Entruster. It's an artifact that converts the feelings of anyone who has used it so far into power. And in order to use it, you gotta give up your body, and basically your feelings get extracted. Most people usually get debilitated on the first try trying to use this because all your feelings get extracted, I guess. But we've got Unfeel right here, so obviously his negation ability circumvents that risk, which is quite fortuitous. It makes me wonder, because God and Luna are playing this game, are the artifacts something that Luna added to the game and she places them in the right places? Like how God seems to choose which negator gets the negation ability. What if Luna, to counteract that little bit of unfairness, she places the artifacts in certain places so that whoever stumbles upon it with that negation ability is the best suit? It could possibly be something like that. I can't remember if it was ever stated where the artifacts actually come from. I looked on the wiki and I couldn't find anything about that. But if it is from Luna and she's placing them in the right place, because sometimes some stuff in Undead Unluck can be a bit fortuitous, coincidental, a bit too fortuitous, a bit too coincidental. And if it is these two guys playing a game with each other, then it does make sense. And that's one thing I do like about this series, bro. Because technically it is the gods doing their little thing. So you could explain it away by saying, yeah, they're playing this game and they actually pushed it towards this way. That's why it looked like it was randomly fortuitous, but it was actually gonna happen like that. Kind of like an Eisen scenario. So after Phil gets that flashback of the previous loop, he's having a little bit of a personal introspection, thinking about his feelings, and he basically sums up that the fact that I want to save people and I still want to fight is basically the sum of the emotions that I wanted to show to my mother. So he's basically saying I'm gonna fight, even though I have no feelings and emotions at the moment. Fighting is the only way I can show that emotion to my mother what I wanted. So now we cut back to the outside of the Queen Alien, and Fuko and Creed are just laying shots into this guy, trying to do anything they can to get Phil out. Then the Queen Alien makes a loud roar and just stops. And Fuko looks a bit disturbed. But what? But then Phil comes out right out of the alien stomach, and he's got his artifacts basically like from before the loop. So I guess before the loop he had Entruster as well. Probably a similar same scenario happened. Like I said, it could be that how Luna and God are playing this game. She put that artifact there so Phil would eventually always find it. He'll probably eventually always get swallowed in by the aliens because of his high amount of emotions. To be honest, it could be that Luna sent those aliens to hit Phil. I don't know. It's all too complex. I might make a different video about it. But yeah, this is actually Phil with it looks like he's got the same stuff he had in the previous loop. And you know what's really interesting? We actually technically, because I'm pretty sure Fuko was unloading that thing with bad bullets. We technically got to see how the stroke of unluck got to build up because we saw Phil inside the stomach and then he grabs the thing. And I guess yeah, it's really weird because it was technically was it technically the unluck that made Phil get swallowed and then well not get swallowed because it was before she started shooting. So I have no idea. You know what? The factor of the unluck could have been the crew member who Phil saw that had the take the doll. Maybe if Fuko wasn't unloading bad luck bullets into what they call bad bullets into the queen, maybe that guy would have just his body just would have been facing the wrong way. Phil would have never seen it. He just got digested by the queen. Maybe I don't know. But that's not what happened. Phil got the artifact and he exploded out that bitch looking clean. Mr. Clean. But yeah, that's the end of the chapter, guys. Very interesting one. We finally get Phil in his final form. He's got this entruster thingy. He's also there was also I didn't notice there was also like a it looks like a I don't know what you called it. Like I only know it from what's it called, Black Desert Online, like a Valkyrie rapier kind of thing. And I think that looks like some kind of gun as well. That was inside the stomach. Probably belonged to one of the other crew members. Yeah. So Phil is decked out, and he's about to fuck up this queen alien, I guess. So that's about it for this review. Thanks everyone for watching. If you got all the way to this part with my terrible audio, I know my audio is terrible. I will not be fixing it. I don't have the money for a good mic. So thank you, and your mama loves you.